of our casting for fishing.
Let's give it a shot.
Well, we've just come from the Boise River in Boise, Idaho with Pete Erickson. Now, Pete's going to take us to another part of the world. We're going into Oregon on a high desert mountain stream where we're going to fish for some spooky brown trout and rainbow. And we're going to learn from Pete some of the presentation casts and what you've got to do to go after the hard to cast fish and how fly casting can help you accomplish that. Hey Pete, thanks for bringing me up here. There's some nice fish laying right in these runs here. They're feeding on betas.
This little stretch has a lot of nice fish. They tend to be a little spooky though.
Yes, I can tell. These high desert streams are wonderful, very productive, but very hard to fish.
Yeah, your presentation and your casting, they got to be right on, or else the fish are just going to say bye-bye.
Well, we've talked so much about the basics, and we've gone through different types of casts on the Boise River. This is different. Those casts can mask some of your inadequacies in the presentation, but you got to be perfect here, don't you?
You do, and also look at the weeds we have on both sides. That just adds a lot of fun to it, doesn't it?
Well, there's two ways that we can approach this. Number one, you can go with a lighter line rod.
Right.
A 2-weight, 3-weight, 4-weight. This would be a little 5-weight would be kind of pushing it, wouldn't it?
I think so, because the line's going to hit the water pretty hard. Even if you use a double taper line, it's still going to hit the water hard enough to maybe spook a fish.
You have a 3-weight, I have a 4-weight. I've got a long leader. I've got an 18-foot leader. A lot of people are going to have a lot of trouble, more than a lot of trouble, casting an 18-foot leader. But we're gonna talk to you a little bit how to set that up, how to get it all ready for an 18-foot leader. And in fact, let's show them right now. Take leader, but more sections of heavy leader and add it to it. In other words, rather than buy a 14-foot leader, and there's all kinds of leaders, which again is the same material made longer.
Right.
What we'll do is add sections on. If we want let's say we want a 16-foot leader, we'd add maybe 3 sections, start at 35, 30, 25 pound down, and now we've got our 6
build down.
Add your 9-foot leader, maybe cut a little of it off. Voila, you got a 15-foot leader that'll actually turn over.
Right, because it tapers down.
Right, it's called compound leader, and believe it or not, folks, it will cast so much better than adding a long 16-foot tapered leader. That compound system will roll it over and make it work for you. I've set that leader up exactly the way that we set it up on the Boise. I've got an 8-foot butt section. This is about 18 feet long leader. Now you've just got a traditional rig.
I do. I have about a 13-foot leader with a dry fly on it.
Aha, okay. So we both have long leaders, which means we're going to have to change our casting style a little bit.
Yep, you're gonna have to do at least 4 or 5 different things with your casting with the long leader.
But also we have approach too, which is still a part of your cast, how you approach. And we've got to be worrying about the fly line going over the fish here, don't we?
Absolutely. If they see the fly line come over the top of into their sight, their field of sight, it's going to spook them. They're going to go for their big run, and you're going to be chasing fish instead of casting to fish.
Okay, well, I'd like you to take us through some of the cast.
Well, the most important part when you're approaching a stream like this, obviously you got glass water in this situation, so presentation is going to be really, really important. That's why I've got a 3-weight, got a long leader. It tapers down to about 6x, and a pretty small dry on there. First thing you have to do is figure out where the fish is. The nice part about a situation like this where the water's glassy is that oftentimes you can see them rising, so that makes your job easier. When you see the fish rise, and I've seen a fish rise just kind of right out in the middle there, just as the current's kind of coming around the corner, just a little bit. So I know where the fish is. Next thing I have to do is how do I approach that fish? And one thing you gotta watch out for when you're approaching a fish is making a lot of noise with your feet, stomping around, moving boulders around. Just the vibrations will send the fish off in a run. Next thing is, if you're standing up, you can walk right into the field of vision of this fish, and that's another thing. So I like to approach from behind and off to the side a little bit. Okay, so I'm actually not quite where I want to be with this fish, but I'm going to move just a little bit closer.
Now, Pete, do you do a lot of long casting in this situation?
I do. You know, Jack, what I like to do is get as close as I possibly can to a tough fish. However, you can't always do that. Sometimes you have to make a 30, 40-foot cast. It's nice to get as close as you can because then your presentation is going to be a lot easier.
And you're going to hook them easier too.
Yeah, absolutely. But you'll learn in a hurry how close you can get to certain fish on certain rivers.
That's right.
On this river, we can probably get within 30 feet, between 20 and 35 feet. So slowly walk up to the fish. Keep an eye on them too. One thing that I used to make a lot of mistakes with is I'd take my eye off the fish and look around for other fish, look back there, don't see the fish anymore. So, aha, there he is. He's cooperating with me and he's
Yes,
rising
he
up
is.
there. So I'm gonna get just a little bit closer, and I like to start getting down at this point. I don't want to take any chances.
One of the things that's very important is to practice this out on your lawn, casting on your knees. Now he's going to use one leg up to kind of brace himself. If he's on both knees, he's going to be a little unstable.
Okay, next thing I want to do is, am I comfortable? Are there too many weeds around me? I think I'm going to move just a little bit further up, which if you inch along, you're not going to make too much noise. Okay, now I'm set. Now I'm comfortable in this spot right here. I'm down low. I've got the rod down low. Another thing is, make sure that you're not doing a lot of this while you're moving around. You'll learn the hard way that the fish take off.
I think, Pete, too, you want to watch that fish and see how he rises and see if he's staying in one place.
And while I'm getting set up, that's a good time to do it. It's a great time to do it is while you're getting set up and you're measuring out your line, you can actually get the rise pattern. You can actually see, is he coming up every 3 seconds? Is he coming up every 5 seconds? That's a big part because I want to present that fly on that 3rd or 4th second when he's on his way up. Why would I throw the fly in there after he's taken a fly and he's already gone down? So I'm going to measure out my line.
And he's going to check to see what's in his back cast, which is me, and I'm going to get out of his way. But I could be really easy, be one of those weeds or those nasty fly grabbers that could be right here.
Exactly.
So he's got to take that in consideration.
Exactly, and I'm basically going to measure my cast out behind me. I'm not going to take any chances with casting across here. Also got some weed issues. I'd rather just throw it down here this way. So, and I don't want to get it too far up there. So I'm going to shoot it back here. This looks about right. I'm not really worried about my fly. I can dry it off with a nice one little false cast will dry it off. Okay, now I'm going to come over to the left.
Short stroke cast, really important.
And I'm out of the field of vision of the fish right now. Okay.
Notice how the tip of the rod is working. That's because he's letting the line straighten out behind him.
And I'm going to add a little more line. I'm adding a little bit of a haul right now, but that's okay. And notice that I've gone down to the side. I don't want this rod up here over the top. Okay? I'm rotating the plane of my rod down to the side. And as soon as I feel like I have the right distance, I'm going to lay it right over the fish at this angle right here.
Nice, delicate presentation. Noticed how his line just landed very softly, all together like beautiful music, right on the water. That's because he backed off the power just slightly and followed through. And if his line would have hit with the middle part, it would have caused wake and it would have spooked the fish. Again, a beautiful, delicate presentation.
Okay, now that cast right there, I kind of missed the feeding lane of the fish. And it makes me a little nervous to go straight across to him. So what I think I'm going to do is do a little roll pickup here. I can also kind of dry my fly off. And what I'm going to do is add a reach cast over to the side and see if I can sneak on into the side here. Let me check my fly. Everything looks good. Dry it off. Add a little line. And there it is. A little bit of weeds, but that's okay. I didn't move the fly. And you can still always constantly work your presentation.
Let's take a look at that cast again in slow motion and go through what he actually did. As you can see, he raises his rod up, changed the direction of his cast, and then with his second false cast, he moved and backed off the power high, and then reached out and laid the line down. Look how beautiful that cast was. Beautiful. Again, a nice reach. Look how the line landed upstream. He's now working over the mends, getting in control of the line. It's very important. It's going right over the fish. Notice how he's following the rod tip where the fly is. That's very important. That's another part of your fishing cast is after you do it. What will a long leader accomplish for you? It'll allow you to cast over fish. The fly line will cast a shadow, block light, imitate the movement of a bird, where a leader is very, very soft, very fine, and will not spook the fish.
Another option I have is to throw a little slackline cast at this fish. Got a little wind coming at me, and instead of a reach cast, I'm gonna stop the rod and let it float back down. Some people like to call that a tuck cast. Basically what it does is if you stop the rod early and then come down with the tip of the rod, it gives you a little bit of slack line. And that's a great way to get rid of drag as well.
The slack line cast, you hear a lot of it. It covers a variety of different types of casts. Everybody tries to put the names to these casts, but it really is backing off the power and then using your rod tip, because the rod tip is what directs the line to place it where you want to go. If you watch Pete's casting, he backs off the power in various places, then follows through and places it where he wants it to go. In a slackline cast, he casts, backs off, and even pulls it towards him and then drops it down. Moving that rod around after you back off the power is what we call a finesse cast, and it doesn't happen on the stream practicing it. It means you practice it and practice it away from fishing. So when you're in this situation, you're not going to choke.